Section 16, Cornerstone Miracles. Although past claims of the occurrence of miracles invoke supernatural ideas, they can be evaluated like any other historical claim. When historians perform this kind of evaluation, they typically examine primary and secondary sources, the multiplicity of cohesive testimony to the event, the presence of opposing testimonies that are embarrassing or inconvenient to the claim, viewing of the event in historical and cultural context, the presence or lack of archaeological evidence, consistency with known historical facts, analyzing potential motivations for fabrication or exaggeration, critical textual analyses of relevant documents, and considering alternative explanations. Of all methodologies, I believe the most robust one when dealing with miracles is the last, trying to conceive an alternative explanation of what is claimed. In this case, how the miracle could have naturally occurred. After all, if the event could have very plausibly or easily occurred naturally, then we have more reason to doubt it was truly miraculous. This methodology of developing a naturalistic account of the claim has the added benefit that it must be holistic. It can't violate any of the other methods mentioned. For example, if we develop a naturalistic alternative explanation for a miracle that goes against credible archaeological and historical evidence, then we must revise our theory with this evidence in mind. Of course, regardless of an abundance or lack of evidence, sufficient speculation and assumption makes it possible to develop a naturalistic theory for even the most incredible miracles. However, comparison between miracles is still possible in that we intuitively know some naturalistic explanations are more plausible than others. This is useful to us within the optimal gambit, as we are not trying to definitively prove any miracle happened, only critically examining which miracle of all miracles is most likely to have actually occurred. To be more specific about the implications of this, even if we find all miracles astronomically implausible, we are still rationally obliged to accept the one we find most probable. Even so, we come across the issue that each belief system can claim to have had hundreds of miracles across history with varying degrees of evidence to support them. Fortunately, we need not examine every last miracle of every last belief system, only the cornerstone miracle. To illustrate what I mean by a cornerstone miracle, I think it helps to imagine a belief system as a great tower of claims that build upon one another. The strength of the whole tower is dependent on the strength of the foundational claim, validated by the cornerstone miracle. The tower analogy is apt, because if the cornerstone miracle seems false, the whole tower of belief and every other miracle it predicates becomes suspect as well. We can assume this because in logic, error compounds error. If I made a claim that includes a core element that is erroneous, everyone who believes my claim also shares in the error. If they make new claims that rely on my erroneous claim, the error propagates forward, and a cycle of increasing error begins. On the other hand, if the cornerstone miracle of a belief system is strong, then we can rest easier knowing at least the core of our beliefs is sturdy. By focusing on the foundations of belief systems, we find a very efficient way to evaluate them. All major belief systems that exist today rest on a cornerstone miracle, a historical claim that, if untrue, would substantially undermine the credibility of the divine inspiration they rest on. In the case of the Prophet Muhammad, his cornerstone miracle is his divinely guided reception of the Quran, which Muslims believe to be the perfect and final revelation of God. Jesus Christ's cornerstone miracle is his resurrection from the dead, which Christians believe demonstrates his power over sin and death. The Buddha's was his attainment of enlightenment, which granted him supreme insight into the nature of reality and the path to liberation from suffering. The Hindu Vedas is their status as eternal divine wisdom that was revealed to ancient sages through spiritual insight and divine inspiration. The Torah's is the Sinai revelation, in which God directly communicated the divine law to Moses, defining the covenant relationship between God and Israel. These are the belief systems that will be analyzed. For absolute clarity, we are not discussing the religions that grew around these figures or traditions, but rather the claim each belief system is founded on. For example, we are not evaluating Christianity. We will be evaluating Christ and the resurrection. We won't be discussing Islam. We are discussing Muhammad and the Quran. We are not investigating Judaism. We are investigating Moses and the Torah, and so on. The reason we are focusing on the Cornerstone miracle is because the downstream religion that exists today is the result of centuries of interpretation of the core claim, and thus comes packaged with many other theological presuppositions that would also need to be scrutinized for the religion to be declared entirely true. For example, if we wanted to evaluate whether modern Christianity is credible, we would need to evaluate the divinity of Christ, his virgin birth, the importance of the sacraments, and the doctrine of the Trinity, etc. All of those beliefs are predicated on the truth of the resurrection of Christ, which should be evaluated first. Within this evaluation, it's important to consider the absence of strong historical evidence for the Cornerstone miracle can itself be considered a type of naturalistic explanation, as it suggests the event may not have occurred as described, may have once been a myth or metaphor, later thought historical, been passed down incorrectly, or have gradually progressed from mundane into legend. Similarly, if a miracle can be plausibly explained through ordinary psychological, sociological, or natural processes without requiring divine intervention, it would weaken the case for its supernatural origin. This is why only major belief systems are being discussed, as they have the most evidence in favor of their cornerstone claim, though I encourage you to study beyond what has been discussed in this work. Having outlined the methodology for evaluating cornerstone miracles, it's crucial to acknowledge the personal nature of this inquiry. Before delving into the analysis of specific claims, it's important to address the role of personal bias in such evaluations, including my own.